Okay, this video will be very fast in making and I am showing on the backside a lot of projects, but I think it will be worth it. The video will be mostly in English, so sorry for my rusty pronunciation, I will try my best. The subtitles will be somewhere near, I hope. My personal take, my commentary will be split in two parts. First one will be for Ukrainian speaking people because I can guarantee they will hate my take. And for good reasons. Sadly, Asmongold's reasons are equally good, and I will try to be somewhat a bridge between them. This second part will be a commentary directly to Asmongold's take for Asmongold and his audience, and timestamps will be below. Also, kudos from Kyiv. Отже, частина перша для україномовної аудиторії. Оригінальне відео, котре Асмон критикує, я також буду критикувати і буду робити це більш жорстко. Я підтримую його ідею, я підтримую бойкот Atomic Hearts. Я не підтримую невдалу реалізацію даної ідеї. І я зараз спробую цю реалізацію виправити. Терпіть. Буде боляче, але так треба. Я дуже сильно дякую автору оригінального відео. Я надам посилання на оригінальне відео в описі під цим. Більше того, якщо вибір стоїть між моїм та тим відео, подивіться те, не моє. Плюс, більшість моєї критики буде стосуватись взагалі не оригіналу відео від Harenko, а в принципі майбутніх відео не тільки про Atomic Heart, але в принципі про будь-які відео на будь-які теми для західних глядачів. Все? Поїхали. Подобається вам чи ні, але відео Асмонгольда варте уваги. Воно показує, чому кенсел Росії у цілому у світі неможливий як явище. Воно показує, чому оригінал відео від Harenko отримав дуже багато хейту у коментарях і дуже негативне співвідношення лайків до дизлайків. Це не тільки росіяни дизлайкали. Ідея відео була чудова, але реалізація була поспішною, ну як я розумію, поспішною. І у цьому я 100% впевнений, без розуміння аудиторії. Захід – це інша культура, це інша позиція у політиці, це інша історія, інші сусіди та інші події. Ви цього не зміните, бо не маєте права. Ви можете лише з цим працювати, як з основою. І маєте основу цю знати. Відео, котре Асмон коментував, з цим як з основою не працює. Тому воно не допоможе. Більше того, воно шкідливе. Бо мотивація зрозуміла і емпатична, а от аргументи слабкі. Емоційно відео правильне, але західному глядачу потрібні візуальні аргументи, щоб витягнути глядача з зони комфорту, де Atomic Heart варта попереднього замовлення. І Асмонгольд не заслуговує на жодну копійку хейта. По-перше, він зібрав $400 000 США на допомогу Україні. 400 тисяч, так. Його колега 500 тисяч. Донат, правда, був не у «Повернись живим», він був у КЕР. Посилання на КЕР буде у описі під відео, щоб ви зрозуміли, що це таке. На майбутнє донатьте у «Повернись живим». Посилання теж буде у описі, QR зараз на екрані.
Ой, у лузі червона калина похилилася.
Тому коментарі про російські гроші, котрі отримав Асмонгольд, що не пахнуть, засуньте собі в сракапельник. Не всі, хто з вами погоджується, придбані Кремлем. Іноді у вас просто аргументи гівно. Це по-перше. По-друге, якщо у вас проблеми з позиціями Асмона, то у вас проблеми не тільки з ним. Зак – це зріз суспільної думки. Це рядовий, розумний і дуже впливовий стрімер. Його думка – це думка дуже багатьох людей. Тому, не стріляйте ви у гінця. Він і впливає на багатьох, і позиція у нього усереднена сама по собі. І як би вам це подобалось чи не подобалось, він має право на власну думку. Він вважає головним ворогом не Росію, а Китай. Він вважає, що США мали б гроші вбухувати в школи, а не в армію. Він вважає Atomic Heart антиутопією, а не утопією. І відноситься до Росії, власне, так, як і має відноситись людина, котра зайнята роботою у першу чергу. І політикою цікавиться в першу чергу американською, а не європейською. І те, що він розбирає на молекули аргументи з відео, котре коментував, це вже не його проблема. Це проблема аргументів відео. Я можу їх на молекули розібрати ось так. Це для нас. ці аргументи актуальні, а на Заході абсолютно ні. Попереднє замовлення на гру, котрої по факту не існує? Вибачте, Кіберпанк 2077, Anthem, Bioshock Infinite. Для західної аудиторії набрехати про гру і випустити щось інше по будь-якій причині – це ледве не стандарт, це не аргумент для них. Вибачте, сексуалізація персонажів для підвищення продажів гри – це може бути вашою особистою позицією, якщо ви проти сексуалізації і так далі, але це не міцний аргумент для некупівлі гри. І закон про заборону сексизму на роботів дійсно поширюватись не має. Роботи не люди. Якщо людина хоче почистити свого пангасіуса на кіборга, то вам яке собаче діло? Це що, це шейм людей за сексуальні уподобання? Дуже прогресивно, дуже по-європейськи, молодці. Про компанії російські чи якісь то там інші ситуація схожа. Західним людям насрати, що їх дані йдуть в ФСБ. Вони з Заходу. Їх дані давним-давно продані Китаю, котрий вони вважають більшою загрозою, знову ж таки. Праві вони у цій позиції чи ні, це вже інше запитання. Гайдзіни з Росії платять податки, котрі йдуть на вбивство людей в Україні? Навіть якщо були докази цього, знаєте, залізобетонні докази, скріншоти, документи. А цього немає. Навіть якщо б це було, Асмону важливіші його податки в його країну, котрі йдуть не на школи, а на армію. І він правий, як би мені не хотілося це визнавати. Мені неприємно думати, що люди і далі будуть платити податки у блядській неофашистській Росії. Але я розумію, що люди у домінуючій більшості роблять це не тому, що вони за Росію, а тому, що робити інакше для них не у пріоритеті. Працювати з тими, хто працює з тими, хто працює з тими, хто працює на Росію – це в їх зоні комфорту. І щоб витягнути Асмона чи ще когось з Заходу із зони їх комфорту, потрібні люті, готові, якісні аргументи. Одразу на столі, у відео, скріншотами, без повірте мені на слово. Посилання у описі – чудово. Покажіть це додатково скріншотами, це дуже-дуже важливо. Бо повірите ви чи ні, але рядовий американець не буде гуглити конкретні слова рандомного чмиря з піару рандомної російської контори, котрих може і не існувати. Або надавайте їх одразу, або не згадуйте взагалі. Бо це грає проти вас і проти нас усіх, проти мене. Погана аргументація допомагає продавати гру. Бойкот Hogwarts Legacy допоміг піару. Гра вже бестселер. Тому будьте уважні і прискіпливі. І якщо ви згадуєте про велику кількість супераргументів або про кількість, котра більша, ніж один, то, будь ласка, надавайте більш, ніж один аргумент якомога швидше. Окей, part 2 in English. Again, sorry for my pronunciation. My position on Asmongold's video will be based on several stances. Stance 1. Modern Putin's Russia is a neo-Nazi state. Full-on neo-Nazi state. Genocidal, propaganda, totalitarian. USA is not that. China is not that. Russia is. I will provide as much evidence and researches in the comments below. They will not be useful as a screenshots right now, right here, but I will provide them too. If you have strong stomach, the New York Times did a documentary on Bucha. And no, half of an hour of security camera footage or satellite images are not fake news. Do not lie to yourself. Stance 2. Because of stance 1, Russia is a bigger threat to a whole world, including USA. China is a threat, but in the future. China right now allows USA citizens to visit Beijing. China works with USA economically. It has contacts politically. It does not call USA a Nazi state. It does not openly threat USA with a nuclear war and does not have in a role of a president some mentally deficient dwarf that does not use internet at all. I fucking wish I was fucking joking. What an amazing timeline we live in, don't you think? Stance 3. Understandably, you may have different opinion. But at least in several European countries, including Ukraine, Finland, Latvia and Lithuania, USSR is much, much worse than Nazi Germany. Not only we have a law that forbids communism almost everywhere at all, but the same law equals communists and Nazis. Link will be in the description. Now, to your points. I agree with a lot of them. Sexy robots? Who cares? Pre-orders? Who cares? The beginning of the video, can agree, amazing. Stance on Englishified names, can agree, weird argument, leads to nowhere. Now,
the reason why I find it to be incredibly disingenuous is that, number one, it presupposes that the people that make Atomic Heart are doing this for nefarious reasons. And also, this would make sense in terms of doing business because Russia is massively sanctioned by everything. So what if they didn't agree with what's happening with Ukraine? So they say, hey, we don't want to be associated with this anymore. We didn't vote for this. We didn't want this.
one of the points of the economical sanctions is to literally starve ordinary Russian people of money, so they will have to choose either fight the neo-Nazi state or die of starvation without jobs, without help, because no one will go to capture Moscow to end this war like Berlin in World War II. No one will finish Russia like Nazi Germany. The war will end only with Russian civil war inside Russia. Before or after Crimea will be liberated doesn't matter. And the civil war will be sooner or later. But time means lives of Ukrainian civilians, women, children. So the sooner the better. If no civil war will happen, the Russian-Ukrainian war will be pretty much endless. I don't think you want this, believe me. Next.
I think that exploring a fantasy element of if like the war was different or something like that, this is a massively, completely different thing. So it's a video game. You are commenting on past events that have happened over 50 years ago that have been studied, dissected, and there are very clear winners and losers in some cases, right? With Stalin, etc. So you are providing commentary on that by creating a fantasy universe. This is not applicable or equivalent to a real-life situation.
Well, simply project this to a Nazi Germany. And no, Wolfenstein is not the same, because it is not a balancing act on something like were Nazis good in some way or not. You do not play as Nazi, you do not work for Nazis, you do not show Nazi Germany in a good way in anything. The Atomic Heart right now, for now, shows communism as something bright, colorful and happy. And the conflict will probably be not in a communism, not with the communism, not with the ideology, but in some mistake of some scientist. Probably. And you will probably fight to save that same communism, not to bring democracy. If the conflict will be with the communism itself, okay, great, awesome. The game sells itself not on that stance. And we must judge it as it stands right now.
So if you say that you're pro-peace, I think that in general implies that you're also pro-Ukraine.
Right now, after Bucha, if you are pro-peace, you are pro-Russian. Because peace without victory means Crimea will stay Russian, Donbass will stay Russian, the genocide on occupied territories won't stop, and war criminals, genocidal maniacs will go unpunished. If you are pro-Ukrainian, you are pro-victory, not pro-peace. And yes, the difference matters a lot. Simply put, peace without victory means that it will happen again, that the war will repeat itself. So, yes, before Bucha, Ukraine wanted peace. Now, Ukraine needs a victory. Next.
And it's not his choice. Again, like none of these things are, if he wants to work in this industry, he he has to adhere to these things.
So, people in Nazi Germany should have supported Nazi army just because they were living there? Well, you can just not support, not as much as you possibly can. And again, more money for Russian company equals prolongated war and more dead Ukrainians. Okay, next.
Ooh. Does Tencent own any of Bungie? I don't know. Bungie gets $100 million investment from gaming company NetEase.
I think you've misunderstood the order of companies. The main culprit of this trio was not Tencent. Tencent, for all we know, is the most innocent one. Again, you think China is the greatest enemy, and you have your right to think so. But my stance is that you are mistaken. Right now, your greatest enemy is Russia.
Ukraine is essentially defeating our most dangerous enemy right now, and that is Russia. China's not our most dangerous enemy. You can still fly to China as an American and go visit. I wouldn't, but you can. Chinese people come to America. We do business with them. That's not how Russia is. China isn't saying they're going to nuke the West over and over again. Our foe, collectively as a Western way of thinking, culture, and system, and rules-based order, is looking at Russia.
Although, will they agree, news and citations about Crimea must be presented visually as much as possible.
By Russia and repeatedly spoke in support of the policies and politics of the Russian Federation. But the most interesting sponsor...
I see. Very good. Where's the citation on that? Yeah, that sounds really good. Oh, okay. So a person who works in PR for one of the companies that invested in the company that made Atomic Heart said something positive about Russia. Okay. All right. So where is it?
Here is the evidence of Govorun visiting Crimea. It is very bad. The visit itself is very bad. Because visiting annexed Crimea without good reason, family members or such, means supporting Crimea's annexation and Putin's politics. It's not an unlawfully sized part of another country, it's just new part of Russia. Why not pay a visit? Yeah, Govorun is pro-Putin.
Yeah,
Anatoly met and became friends with oligarchs who got rich on oil and gas activities and now have the opportunity to invest large sums of money in various projects.
Okay, so the argument here is that oil and gas is bad, and because he is being invested in by somebody who is invested into oil and gas, it makes them bad by proxy.
Modern Russia is a carbon-based economy. Its main source of money and power is gas and oil. Everything that has even a slight connection to gas and oil is 100% connected to Putin and therefore to his politics. Since, well, you do not get to such a lucrative money-making machine by chance.
It is known to be a gaming division of the former Mail.ru, the same Mail.ru who had Maxim Zatsepin as their former top manager. And again, it is closely connected with the Russian government and participates in many initiatives of the Kremlin. If Atomic Heart is being developed with money that originated from sanctioned...
I want to say that they would participate in many initiatives with the Kremlin, whether they want to or not.
Again, Nazi Germany's example. Why would you support someone who directly works on behalf of Gestapo? Just because that someone is forced to work with Gestapo. Well, do not help him. Yes, he will suffer without your help, but your help will lead to deaths and suffering of much more people.
Russian government, such as VTB, profits from the game could be directed to help the Russian government in its invasion. Thus, by buying Atomic Heart, you would pay money to companies that support the aggressive policies and military actions of the Russian Federation. Lastly,
I think that this is true, but I think that it's contextualized too strongly around Atomic Heart. So, for example, I think you can make the same argument about the World Cup being in Qatar. Absolutely. I think you can make the same argument about any company that's owned by China, because all companies that are in China are owned by the government.
Well, if to prioritize a little, you've gathered fuck ton of money to help Ukrainians, and you admit that the atomic heart is bad for Ukraine, that it gives money to Russia, so then why would you still support it? You are doing a good stuff for Ukraine, and then you are, with full knowledge, then you are supporting Russia and doing a bad stuff for Ukraine. Why?
Basically, it says that your information can and will be transferred to the Russian government, in particularly the Federal Security Service, and not just your username, but your full name, physical address, email, phone number, IP address, and so on.
Well, isn't that... I don't think that's a very strong argument either, because, like, what does it say in their current terms of service? So if they moved away from Russia and disconnected from Russia, why are we still holding them accountable for a policy that was made under Russia?
Can agree it's not that strong of an argument. However, today's Russia uses every bit of information to control the internet to its behavior, to use bots, to use paid accounts and such. Are you sure you want to give neo-Nazi state that power? Again, China already has all of it, but this info is pretty much Chinese property. I mean, your stolen info is a thief's property. And since Russia did show itself as an absolute weakling on a battlefield, China will not help Russia more than needed. China will play on winner's side, or at least on neutral side as much as possible.
The game is set in a utopian universe where the USSR had won.
I don't think anybody is looking at this as it being utopian. And I think that if you want to look at, like, so, okay, the game is being sold by the developers as BioShock in Russia. Is BioShock utopian? It's the opposite.
The problem is the BioShock Infinite does not look like an anti-utopia. It is one thematically, but it does not look like one. Stalker is a Soviet-era anti-utopia. You Are Empty is 10 out of 9 Soviet-era anti-utopia. Atomic Heart looks and feels more like Trouble in Paradise, not anti-utopia much. And about being not real, again, imagine Nazi-themed game of this kind. Imagine Wolfenstein, but you are a Nazi soldier without anything. Just a Nazi soldier trying to save Nazi Germany from losing captured USA. Game where you are killing the members of the resistance. Yes, it's not very real, but it's still not very cash money.
The game is filled to the brim with USSR-themed keepsakes and memorabilia, from drinking condensed milk straight out of the can to actual flags and symbols of the USSR hammer and
I would have never guessed that a video game that's built around the USSR would have things from the USSR in it. How could anyone have come to such a... Oh my god, this guy cracked the code. Holy fuck, he sees it.
Well, what can I say? Ukrainians hate USSR and they are not the only one. You've cracked the code, congrats on it. USSR did to Ukraine what Nazis did to Jews, and then much worse. But you're giving USSR-themed game a free pass.
And there are many solid reasons to
And
believe...
that's why it's interesting. Because it wouldn't be interesting if it was only presenting a one-dimensional communism, USSR bad viewpoint. It's boring.
Again, just switch communists with Nazis. Maybe in 100 years from this very moment, some neutral grey game will be allowed. Neutral game about communists will be allowed, but not now. Now, when the communism-obsessed Russia is shelling Ukraine, it is very bad taste to paint communism as middle grey, even as a possibility.
Wolfenstein made fake Nazi propaganda movies? Oh, Wolfenstein made fake Nazi propaganda movies? Is that true?
Well, the difference is the Sweden-based company Machine Games is pretty much guaranteed to have, and anti-Nazi position and anti-Nazi stance. And when they make fake Nazi propaganda film or replace real-life music with German variants, it is not a statement on a good nostalgic times of old. Oh, but this? Oh, this is that nostalgia. Russia, you must never forget, Russia is still drooling over the Soviet era. They forbid by law the equalization of communism and national socialism. Putin hates decommunization in Ukraine so much that he mentioned it in his war announcement speech a year ago.
Вы хотите декоммунизации? Ну что же, нас это вполне устраивает. Но не нужно, что называется, останавливаться на полпути. Мы готовы показать вам, что значит для Украины настоящая декоммунизация.
So yeah, there is a difference.
I mean, the USSR killed more people than Nazis did. Yeah, USSR is also bad. I mean, like, guys, I don't want to have like the oppression Olympics here, okay? USSR bad, Nazis bad. Let's move on.
But you forgive the neutral stance on USSR and all but forbid the neutral stance on Nazi Germany. Why? Especially now. Probably because you can't even imagine how much Russia tries to be USSR 2.0. Ukraine's war is to rebuild USSR. Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, then Kazakhstan, and Baltic countries next, with or without war. That's Putin's plan. Well, that was Putin's plan.
Also, I don't think that it's unfair. I think it's unfair for people to say that the Russian people can't be patriotic about their own country, even in the context of the Ukraine stuff. The truth is, many of them did not vote for that. They didn't want that.
It is unfair to forbid people to be patriotic for their country? Oh, but is it fair for Ukrainians to die for some Russian people that are patriotic for Russia, patriotic for supporting genocide? Or did you forget that genocide is happening right now? Because yeah, it did not stop, it still continues. Russia still shells Ukrainian non-military targets, energy systems, living houses, heating centers. Russia even admits that it does genocide. This is the post from yesterday. And yes, shelling civilian energy and heat objects is considered a genocide. So, yeah, people patriotic for genocidal Russia is as good as people patriotic for genocidal Nazi Germany. Should I remind you the fate of Germans after World War II?
So, to categorize all of the people that live in Russia or that have Russian names as being like for what the Russian government is doing, I think is just so massively unfair.
The people of Russia, as a sole source of power in Russia, have direct responsibility for actions of Russia as a state. That's in Russian Constitution, Article 3, Paragraph 1. It's not only their problem, it is their responsibility and accountability to not let Nazi regime and genocide happen. If it happens, they all are accountable. Okay, it's the day pretty much 4 of my planned single day making of this video. And as you see, I am a total mess. Because I was trying to find the exact citation of a USSR persecutor of a Nuremberg trial. I was trying to find this citation to end the video. The citation looks like this. And several Ukrainian celebrities did cite these words in social media. I did not found anything like that. And I've searched a lot, including this document, the final statement by Roman Andreyevich Rudenko, who was the persecutor from USSR on Nuremberg trials. The closest I found to this statement was this citation in a 2015 Russian book, A Knife to a Back, A History of a Betrayal by Leonid Mlechin. Yeah, this book does not exist in English, and the one who says the citation is not Rudenko on Nuremberg, but the German Fritz Bauer on the Auschwitz trials in 1963. And even then, as you might understand, that's not the same citation, even by common sense. If I will be able to find a needed document with the source I'm searching, it will be in a description below and in the upper comment. For now, I will not be a perpetrator of false citations, however righteous they may sound. Well, at least I will not be the conscious one. But here's the problem. The people of Russia, the Russian society, is still guilty, but guilty in a criminal omission. The omission that was a fundamental part of actus reus of this war. Because if by the constitution itself Russian people are the sole power in Russia, then the failure to stop the rise of Putin's neo-Nazi power, that is aggravated by the burden of the grandparents who were fighting Nazis 80 years prior, must be considered at least a criminal neglect, especially since the people of Russia do remember the example in a form of people of Germany. The same fact that they are not the first one is an additional aggravation. Now, what could they do to prevent this? A single one Molotov cocktail thrown into a policeman after the war started could have started Russian Maidan. Ukrainian Maidan started from a tragic but relatively small beating up of several student protesters by Berkut. Russian citizens did come to a peaceful protests in millions, and they had much more serious reasons to make their own Maidan, and they had an example, but they did not do it. And so several millions of people just went to a peaceful protest against the neo-Nazi government that was non-peaceful and determined enough to start a genocidal war against Ukraine. So to end this video, I will use this citation, but the one that I actually know the source of. Because one wise man once said, peaceful protest is the most stupid form of submission. Okay, that will be the last point I'm commenting on. I am tired, as you might understand. Взагалі, я роблю це відео тому, що мій талант пояснювати, просвітлювати та розжовувати може бути конкретно зараз дуже-дуже корисним. У нас все ще є можливість обісрати ФСБшним залупам врожай західних грошенят. Поширте це відео у соцмережах, донайте на ЗСУ. Не прошу підписуватись сюди, але було б чудово. У мене є і інші україномовні канали, 3 штуки, включаючи єдиний поки що у світі україномовний про фототехніку. Ден Блендамен, теж посилання буде у описі. Ну і дякую магазину київському магазину Saudnomag.ua за наданий для зйомки відео мікрофон Sennheiser MKE600. Але саме головне, слава Україні, слава нації та пиздець Російській Федерації. Слава героям та бувайте здорові!